Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone from wherever you are in the world, and welcome for the second race of the World Series 2023. We're in Canada today, and we will race in the Rocky Mountains. Today, I have two commentators with me, and I will leave you with them afterwards. It's Ryan Woods, if can join me, yeah, and Christopher McGough from Canada, both from Canada. Hello, guys. Welcome.
Anton, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, are you excited about tonight?
Of course. Yeah, Invermere is one of the most beautiful places to fly in Canada, and I'm excited for everyone in the world to see that. So.
Where do you both come from in Canada?
I'm from Calgary, which is just a few hours drive from Invermere. I usually have a couple trips into Invermere each year. My gliding club is Q&M, and I'm the chief flying instructor there.
Great.
And I'm from Saskatchewan, which is one province to the east of Chris in Alberta. And yeah, today it is about minus 30 degrees Celsius out here. So we're right in the thick of winter. So Condor is, yeah, excited about this today. Condor is an escape during the winter season for myself and a number of other winter-bound pilots here. So great to see the action in Canada today. And yeah, Chris will be more familiar with the route. I will know it a little bit more from hang gliding, but I have not done any gliding out in that area yet. But hey, maybe next season I'll get out there and enjoy it in real life.
Amazing, guys. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. So for the public who doesn't know that, we have several races throughout the year with the World Series, and we just go into one country per race. Tonight we are in Canada, as you can see, and we've had some discussions with Canadian people from Quebec, and then with Ryan and Chris, who accepted to join us tonight to come on the race and to kind of talk about their country, the areas there, and the gliding clubs. So during the live streaming, you will see probably the numbers of clubs and where they are in Canada if you want to join and come fly in Canada and discover gliding maybe after the race or next summer.
Wonderful.
Well, guys, I think I will leave you here because I think you can do that in a good way. I will let you present the race. Then you will jump into Condor 2 with everyone flying tonight. I wish you a very good race and enjoy your evening or your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Anton.
Thanks, Anton.
So I don't know if at some point we'll get the weather briefing and the task briefing up from Condor, if that's visible or not. If so, we can kind of take a look at it and walk through it a bit. But Chris, this was a task that you kind of put at least the initial concept together. Can you share a little bit about the area and what pilots will be experiencing today as they go through the race?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to be the start will be at Invermere, which is deep in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. Invermere is a beautiful kind of resort type of town. There's a ski hill there, and it's also got a great big lake, which is really nice during the summer. And it's a commercial operation run by my friend Trevor Florence. And it's a great place to fly out in Canada. So we'll be starting there at Invermere and then heading east. Usually the area, there's a main range that runs right down Invermere, called the main range, and then this task is going to be going to what we call a back range. First turn point is basically just directly east of the airport, going to the back range, and then heading down to a place pretty close to White Swan Lake, a small little lake that we'll be able to see, should be able to see in the race, and then heading north almost up to Kananaskis area, kind of the ski area in Alberta, and then it'll be heading back down to basically just east of the airport on the back range, and then back to a finish right at Invermere. I think there's a few gaps that you'll have to jump, which I think will make the flight interesting. And I'm kind of curious to see whether people are going to be trying to ridge soar or not. What do you think, Ryan?
I have not. I'm going to try to log on to onto the Condor race here. I haven't seen the weather briefing in detail, so I'm curious. I don't know if you saw it, Chris, in terms of what the actual wind strength was. But yeah, that's always the question: is with the wind strength and how much ridge, how much thermal, and when to thermal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I haven't seen the weather briefing yet either. But I suppose.
Okay. Well,
sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I'm going to try to hop on the Condor server here and check out, get a closer look at the weather, so we know exactly what our competitors are facing today.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I guess Ryan's taking a look at the weather now. Gone over the task, and I believe there's 146 pilots registered. I think it's always a surprise of how many will join. But I know the last few that it's been well over 50, if not 100 joining, so.
Yeah, I know there's another big race going on during this time slot, the Condor World Cup. So the last race in Mexico, I flew it in the latest time slot, which I think was 11:30 UTC, and there was quite a few pilots on that time slot as well, and it was a good race. I'm just finding the password here for this time slot and pop in and check out the server. Yeah. So this is a common route, Tris, that pilots would fly in real life, or does it go deeper in the mountains than you might dare in the real thing?
Yeah, this probably I said there's the main range, which is the main ridge that's right on Invermere. That is a pretty safe area because there's a bunch of airports up and down that ridge. Going further to the east takes you into tiger country, as they call it. It's there's not a lot of places to land, and not even a lot of roads in there. It's pretty undeveloped in there. So this is a possible flight, but you'd have to be extremely careful. Probably wouldn't set up a real race here because your outlanding options are so low, but if you're careful in the glider, then you can definitely fly out here. We also have some airspace restrictions going east into Calgary area, so it makes it a little more difficult to fly safely out in that area because you have to be a little lower. But this is a beauty Condor that you can go anywhere.
Explore the areas you might not normally get to see. Has anyone ever flown a glider over the Rockies into Alberta? I know the paraglider pilots have done that route once or twice. You kind of go, there's a lot of going over no man's land, flying over top of a national park, which previously it was illegal to land a paraglider or hang glider in the national park, but I think those rules have actually been recently updated in the past few years. But has a sailplane ever kind of gone over the top to the east into the prairies?
Yeah, I think one of the first guys who started really pushing into the mountains was a fellow named Dick Lamini, who was a member of my club, QNIM, just out of Calgary, and he pushed over into the Columbia Valley, is where Invermere is, into that valley, the Columbia Valley, a number of times. And I think he made it. I think he was the first one. I've heard a few other stories of people. It's certainly not common. the one other pilot who's done that recently is Chester Fitchett, who you may have seen some of his wave flights out of Canada, mostly on the east side of the Rockies, out of our club QNIM. But yeah, he's flown from Calgary area QNIM right into Invermere at least a couple times. I say that because it's so little outlanding fields in between. It's not done very often, but it is possible. And then the airspace restrictions. If you had a really good high cloud based day, it would be a bit easier to do that. But
you'd be taking less glides where you're counting on having to get the next thermal, or the next lift. But there must be some of that. There must be some areas where you're guaranteed having to get the thermal. Otherwise, your landing options are for a paraglider. Yeah, you'd have landing options, but for a sailplane, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely some points where maybe you could land in a lake or something like that. But I mean, there's not even roads in a lot of these valleys, so it makes it a bit scary going over there. You definitely have to be careful.
Yeah, so they got a map of the route here. I don't know if it's possible to turn on the terrain view, and we can kind of take a glance at what the terrain is looking like through the flight here. Okay, yeah, this is great. It gives us a sense of the ridges and the routes. So they take off from Invermere. The start gates. Do you know what the start gate height was on this one? Of course, my Condor didn't have this. I have this other laptop here, and I don't have the Rocky Mountain scenery on it, so I wasn't able actually to log into the task. But the start gate is what was the height on that again?
I don't have the briefing.
Oh, I have the briefing. Actually, I got the briefing here.
I'm sure it says that.
Oh, it doesn't say it on the. It doesn't say it on the. Oh no, it's a 12. It looks like 1210. Oh no, the start is 1210 meters airborne. It doesn't say the start gate height. We have the arrival height, but the gliders will cross the start gate, and then they are going to basically head directly to the primary ridge. I'm assuming on.
Well, it's not quite the primary. It's okay. We call it the back range. The primary ridge is
the back ridge.
There, but back okay.
Okay. Okay, so they'll skip over the front range, and then there'll probably be a fair bit of ridge soaring to the south to the second turn point.
I would guess. I mean, I'm interested to see the strategies that people will make there, but I think that you'd certainly be capable to do that. On the way up north, though, you'd have to jump a couple gaps. Might be possible to ridge shore if you really know what you're doing, but I get the feeling it probably had to take a couple thermals to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And my guess is going to be that after they tag the second turn point, they will continue back along that ridge for a while. How far they go back up it, I guess, will be the question. If they're going to go almost all the way back to the first turn point, and then kind of follow to kind of past the fourth turn point and along that leg, because the valley looks a little deeper if they take a bit of a detour, or are they going to kind of follow more direct line from the second turn point to the third? And so it'll be interesting. My feeling is there would be some backtracking along the ridge there before they head more directly to the third turn point.
Yeah, and even the finish, there's about the main range that's right on Invermere, just to the east of Invermere there. That's about 8,000 feet, or some of those mountaintops are 8,000 feet. They're probably the lowest spots are 7,000. So when you're coming from the last turn point in, you probably have to make sure that you got enough height to glide over top of those mountains and get it back into Invermere, because Invermere is about 2,800 feet, and those mountains that are just less than 10 kilometers to the east of it are up at 7. So you'd have to keep that in mind for your final glide. There's a couple gaps that you can go through, but they're a ways north. The Radium Gap, which you can see a road
Okay.
on the map.
Yeah, with the highway there.
But there's not any big gaps otherwise. So
okay.
make sure.
Yeah, these tasks that the FAI Esports is doing, they have a couple of extra rules. We got to the live action here. It looks like we got quite a few pilots in the game already, getting ready for the start. What is our start countdown? I'm not sure if it's visible on the screen there, but I think it was a 20-minute join time and then a 10-minute start window. So it should be right around 8 o'clock UTC that the start should happen. Okay, so stop join is in 4 minutes, and then after that, it is 10 minutes before the start gate opens. Okay, so 57 pilots are on the server, so excellent. It's going to be should be a great race with that many people. And I was saying that the FAI races, they have a couple of additional rules that pilots need to be mindful of. One of them is the start speed. So there's a 170 kilometer an hour ground speed limit. When you have to cross the start line, if you're over that limit, you get penalized. You get a reduction of points. And so that's something that pilots need to pay attention to. Something that really helps with that is using either XC Source, so you have your ground speed, or using a tool like Katasa, so you can monitor your ground speed as you're approaching the start gate. And the second thing is there's the minimum safe arrival altitude, which is 1,200 meters. Now, in this task here, with having to cross the front range before Invamere, it is likely that might not be as much of a factor because they might already have that altitude and some to spare when they approach the finish. Potentially, I'm not sure exactly how far it's going to be from over the mountains to the finish line, but they gotta be mindful of that extra bit of altitude, which isn't in Condor, so it's not set as a hard limit in Condor, because Condor, if you don't meet the minimum arrival, then you just don't finish. Whereas this method allows for people to finish with a penalty if they finish a bit too low. Yeah, so here's a good example of a nice Condor setup. I believe this is SOL, and he's one of the top ranked pilots on Condor Club. I think he's ranked second or third, and he has an excellent setup here. He's using it looks like an Oculus Quest VR, and he even has a camera mounted on the front of his Oculus Quest, so you can see what he's doing from a first-person view. And he has the LK8000 flight computer, which is very, very comparable to XC Soar. He has that off on the side for the viewers to see, and then you can see, depending where he's looking in virtual reality, you can see the LK8000 pinned into his virtual cockpit, along with, I think I've seen a glimpse of Katasa there. So he has lots of tools pinned into his cockpit. This is actually the same similar setup to how I fly. I like to use virtual reality and then pin the different apps that I need in the cockpit so I can see them. Little trickier to interact with them. You have to set up kind of scripts and hotkeys to be able to interact with them within virtual reality. But it is a very immersive and very realistic way to fly Condor. I thoroughly enjoy it myself.
I was just wondering, Ryan, did you notice what he had a list in front of him? What is that? You know what that is?
So a list in
it's coming up on the live screen there. I can't see it that well. Well, it's gone away now.
Okay, so this list here. Okay, so yeah, that's the list of the when you hit I believe the tab is the default key in Condor, and that will show you the live score sheet. Yeah, so if depending on the setting on the task in Condor, you can actually see the live times and the live scores of people. But if the live score feature is turned off, then what you just see is a list of all the competitors, and you can tell by the colors if they've started the task yet, if they're logged into the server, or if they've disconnected. So that's the different color coding of. So you get a little bit of information if the live scoring is turned off, but not as much as if it's turned on. And then you can sort of see everyone's speeds. You can't see their altitudes or climb rates, so you do get limited information from it. You don't see the full picture, but you get a sense of who's fast and kind of what routes might be working for people. But most more competitive tasks have the live scoring turned off, just to kind of take away any advantage that it might bring.
We have now another view. Well, there's a town of Invermere below. You can see Windermere Lake, and we have quite a few pilots there under one cloud, pretty much over the lake, it seems.
Yeah, no, it looks like a decent gaggle is forming there. I believe the different colors in terms of the ribbons or the paths that are following the pilots, I think those are just colored in terms of identifying or separating. I don't think it's coded according to climb rates. It's just kind of a visual indication, so you can keep an eye on the same pilot and kind of see the history of their path. But it is it's a nice visual. Can get a sense of the thermal, the amount of drift to it, and and just kind of the pretty spirals that these gliders make as they're ascending.
I managed to bring up the weather for the race here.
Oh, you got it. Okay, yeah, wonderful.
The wind is coming from the west southwest or southwestish area at 6 knots, so not terribly strong.
Okay.
And the thermal strengths are set to weak, and cloud base is going to be 6,500 feet.
Okay.
So not extremely high, so I think this will be quite a challenging one in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I was assuming it was a weak thermals because look at the lack of slope on those contrails from the gliders. Yeah. It's like that's looking like not a very steep climb. Whereas when it's a strong thermal setting, it looks like quite the steep corkscrew that they're making. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
And actually, I was noticing there's some wavy looking clouds up there, and the wave settings are. I haven't used wave a lot in Condor, but it's definitely showing that there should be a little bit of wave there. So I'm not sure if that will be used by the competitors or not. It's probably possible, but with waves, sometimes it can be counterproductive.
Yeah, it can be quite a wild card in some tasks if you happen to find the wave or be able to bump into it, especially if it's a more mild wave. It can be a little trickier to find. It's not as obvious as like a very generous wave task where there's very clear indicators and lenticulars to see it. But yeah, if some of the competitors can find the wave or luck into it, particularly if the thermals are weak, the wave could deliver substantially stronger climb rates. So it'd be interesting to see if that actually becomes a factor in this task.
Yes.
And what was the cloud base on this one again, Chris?
Cloud base is from 6,500 feet.
Okay.
I'm speaking in feet. Maybe some of our viewers are more meters, but
yeah, so about 2,200 meters or so. Yeah, so the cloud base isn't particularly high in terms of some of the crossings that they're going to have to manage during this. So it will it might provide some challenge. I do believe that these races are designed to be sort of intermediate level challenge. They're not designed to be the most difficult or the most extremely technical, but still to have some challenges and some decisions to make. So it should be it looks like it should be a nicely balanced task from what I can see.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many landouts. I think looking at the past score sheet, it looks like there's a few people who landed out here. And if you are landing out in some of these areas, it'll be more likely be a crash. But you can probably see in these mountain valleys, there's not much flat areas. But
okay, interesting. So some people have already landed, or they didn't find their early climb.
I'm not sure if anybody. Sorry, I was looking at the past competitions. There were some landouts in the competitions. So
okay. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's any landouts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe in Condor, if you do land out and you do make it back to the airport, you are able to get towed up again and get a relight and continue on. And with a 60-minute start gate, that does provide the time for potentially making a mistake. I know some pilots will maybe start earlier and run the route a bit, and maybe if they don't get as good of a time as they like with the initial leg, they'll come back and take a second start, or they'll use it just as reconnaissance to kind of see what the route is like. Yeah, so there's some people that have already looks like they may have already taken a start, and they're going to be exploring the course and the route to see what the weather's like, to maybe get a sense of the climbs. And there's going to be a lot of other people here that are still behind the start gates, gaining altitude, and potentially playing a little bit of the start gate games. So hoping for get a number of get some good pilots out ahead of you that you can follow and chase, and kind of observe what lines they're taking, particularly with weak thermal conditions. It can become really helpful to have other people marking the climbs and picking the better climbs, and that using your competitors, observing them can make quite a difference in the race.
Yeah, and I think the start gate's opening in just a couple minutes here, so we might start seeing some starts. But these guys haven't actually started, the ones that are out on course. They're just, I think, checking the weather ahead and seeing what the weather will be like on course. There's 60-minute windows, so there is a long time to pick your start, and you can go a long ways on course and see what it's like, and still have lots of time to come back and start.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible to, if you're able to pull up the live scoring or the score sheets, and we can take a look to see how many people have started the race so far or not.
What was your map?
So it looks like most people are still kind of close to the start here, and don't know if there's too many out on course yet. I'm not sure if I guess this OGN tracker doesn't really give us much in terms of the scoring or times, but yeah, we get to see kind of the bird's eye view of where everyone's at. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So Ryan, what would be your strategy on a day like today for starting?
A day like today with the weak thermals, and then what? Do you know what time of day we're at here, Chris, for the actual? So the virtual time, yeah. So it was looks like it was 1 o'clock. So it's the day hasn't probably quite peaked yet in terms of the conditions. So my strategy would be, particularly with the weak conditions, I'd want to get quite a few guys on course in front of me, get a lot of thermal markers out there, and then use them to try to hopefully improve my climbs. Did you recall what the thermal widths are on this, Chris?
Let me get that right now. Oh, by the way, I guess the start of the server is showing 1300 for the time of day.
Yeah.
Thermal width are just normal for today.
Okay, so normal thermal width is that definitely can make a difference in strategy as well. So if it was very wide thermals, then it's a lot easier to not pass by the thermals. Especially if you're low and you're trying to guess the position of the cloud relative to the thermal. If it's very wide, you just get sucked into it and you're good to go. But if it's normal, which is substantially smaller than the wide thermals, then having the markers out on course so that you can center the thermal quickly, so that you don't pass by it. That can make quite a difference. I know from I was flying the FAI sailplane Grand Prix race that they were doing in Gawler, Australia, and I was flying the one of the later servers, like more of the North American server times, and it was substantially more difficult than the races that were happening during our afternoon, but the evening in Europe, where they had a lot more pilots on course. So with those conditions, with weak thermals, the gaggles made a huge difference, and the smaller servers had a lot more of a struggle. And there's some servers I think that everyone would land out on the server, where the ones with a lot more pilots they fared a lot better. So weak conditions, utilizing your competitors to help with the thermals is key, I would think. Yeah. Okay, so we have our first start. So someone has decided to kick things off. I believe that's Kilo Hotel. Now it might be a real start, or it might just be a tentative start. Head out on course a little bit, see how it goes, and then backtrack and do another start.
Yeah, it looks like he's passed, just gone into the gap. Highway 93 is below on that, or actually just to the north, it's Highway 93. Yep. And looks like he's pushing right into the ridge.
Yeah, and it looks like he's taken a climb very shortly after the start here. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a lot of altitude and clearance from the ridge, so I think that'd be a wise strategy to take the climb early. And and as you're asking, Chris, in terms of approach, with winds like that, I think I would do similar to what these pilots are doing. Try to get an early climb, and then get above the ridge and really try to maximize the amount of netto that you get off of the ridge. And there can sometimes be I find anyway a decent bit of difference if you're right at the top of the ridge versus a third of the way down. That can make a fair bit of difference in the amount of extra energy you take. So I would get the early climb and then try to get to at or above ridge height to try to maximize the amount of netto. But it might not be enough ridge to sustain. It might just be enough ridge to kind of get an extra boost and a little bit of extra energy, but you're still going to have to be stopping to thermal time to time. That's hard to tell if unless I'm in the game to know exactly how much the ridge is providing. It definitely will be a factor in terms of the overall energy, but whether it will be primary ridge racing or if it's just going to be that little extra assist.
Yeah. It looks like Whiskey 22 there has started, and I can't see Kilo Hotel, but he's a little bit further ahead. Just behind? Okay. Probably be a slow start of, I think, everyone hoping that someone's going to start ahead of them. But these are the brave souls who want to try it out right away.
So right now they're on this is what we call the front ridge, right, Chris? Or have they already pushed through to the back ridge?
I think, this is still the front ridge, yeah. Or, well, kind of the main range. Yeah, that's right. And then, the next, the gap, is a little bit further east. I think I said that the gap was underneath us, but it's further to the east there. That goes to the back range.
Yeah. And in flying this in real life, how does the front range compare in terms of the reliability and the energy of the ridge lift versus the back range? Does one have a better ridge than the other?
I would say they're both pretty similar. Most of the time, I say this is kind of the easier range to fly because you have the better outlanding options available. You going directly back to the east there, it's not too bad getting back to Invermere, but otherwise, it could be a little bit low. Oh, looks like Alpha Mike just started, so
okay,
he's going for it. But actually, it's funny that people are flying kind of similarly to how you might you end up. Usually, we take a launch and hit the first couple of hills, and then you have to climb your way to these back ones. Try to figure out which one he's going to there. It looks familiar.
Yeah, and I think with these weak conditions, getting the thermals coming off the ridge should make make quite a difference. As you might know from flying TAS and Condor, the thermals can be substantially stronger if they're coming up the mountain face and with the wind than they are in the flats. So you could get even with the weak conditions, you could still get a decent strength climb off of the hills versus out in the valley. So we got 007. Looks like they're headed out on glide. I don't know if they've hit the first turn point yet. I don't think anyone's got there yet, but it looks like they're headed south down the primary ridge.
Showing 10 kilometers is the furthest they've gone there.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not quite. 007 is very fitting because the operator of the Invermere site, his glider is 007. It's a duodiscus. So.
Okay, perfect. And is 007 a duodiscus as well?
Yep. Okay. Yep. So very fitting. Very fitting.
Wonderful. How many people are flying the Arcus, or is it primarily discus?
Actually, it looks like quite a few do a discus here. We were told that there's no handicap in this contest, so you'd think the Arcus would be the advantage. But
I see on the briefing that it does say there is a handicap, so I'm assuming that's going to be the factor. And the duodiscus is the the bundled glider that comes with Condor. So myself, I haven't bought the Arcus yet, but I guess a task like this, if it wasn't handicapped, then we probably would. I think we'd see more Arcuses. Maybe it would help sell some planes for Condor.
Yeah. So that might be a factor that people just haven't bought the Arcus. Yeah.
That will be a bit of a factor. A lot of these guys are going to be very serious. So if there's an advantage, they're going to be buying a glider. So
I'm not sure if they're getting the anabatic lift off the mountains, or if, let's say, the wind's so light that you probably not getting strong ridge lift, but
yeah,
you might be getting some.
Yeah, one thing that can the Condor often models, as you said, sort of the anabatic thermals. So they'll if you fly Condor and you turn on thermal helpers, for example, and you see the thermals visually, you can often see some of the thermals, they really follow the slope of the mountain and kind of like climb along the slope of the mountain, and those ones can often be quite strong climbs. So if you can thermal really close to the ridge, you can sometimes get a good climb, and then as soon as you reach the ridge top, then the thermal strength often just drops right off. But if you're low and you climb out along the face of the ridge, it can be a strong climb sometimes.
I'll take a look at ZL7 here. If we can get the reading of his climb rate.
Okay, perfect. You were able to get in on spectator mode, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well,
perfect.
Take a look here. Oh yeah, it's variable at the moment, but it was pegged at 10 knots per second there. But I think that's
okay. Yeah.
But maybe it's a tight thermal, but
yeah,
I can see his nose coming up, and it goes up to 10.
I don't know if it's possible to get slightly longer trails put on the display here. It might give us a little bit more sense of the climb rate that they're experiencing. Okay, yeah, there we go. So we can see the bit of the climb history here, and yeah, it doesn't look too terrible of a climb rate that they were getting off of this one for it being weak thermals. But as I said, like often these ones that are coming up the ridge, they sometimes die off earlier, I find. So it looks like these guys have, they're definitely not going up to cloud pace, and then they're just getting enough altitude, I think, to be able to cross and to get to the next ridge. What height they'll arrive at, I don't know. I don't think they're going to arrive quite at ridgetop height, but maybe they will, and then they'll be sort of in optimal energy position if they can be at ridge height.
It's interesting that first term point's not on top of the ridge, so you could get there quite low, but I think another climb would be tough after that. It's kind of interesting to see how Kilo Hotel does this. Probably has to push into the mountains and hopefully slowly pull up the mountain sides there.
Yeah.
It looks like it would be challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the mountain tasks are definitely there can be a bit more going on sometimes than the pure flatland or thermal task you have to make and decide, are you going to fly fast and low on the ridge? Are you going to get up, well above and get in a safer position? So there's a lot of calculations and a lot of decisions that the competitors have to make to try to optimize their strategy.
I believe Kilo Hotel is the front runner right now.
Yeah.
Looks like it. Let's look into his cockpit and see what his altitude is. Oh, he's 8,000 feet.
Okay.
That's not low. So
No. Okay, and we got a score sheet now up on the screen, so you can see the distances that they're at. And now is Kilo Hotel in Arcus, or is he flying a distance?
yeah, Kilo Hotel's an Arcus, and the
Okay.
Con is a Duodiscus, and I believe that's why
I saw that because it was showing him number one, even though he's flown less distance. So I was assuming that's the handicapping that is that's putting him out in first.
That's right. They're all hoping to find some lift here soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch now to see how much they have to thermal versus what the ridge is going to provide them. Probably they should have a sense of it by now from before the start and ridge soaring the front ridge. Hopefully, they have a sense of how much ridge lift is available and how much they're going to have to be relying on the thermals to do it. So, Chris, what times of year does the season run out in Invermere? Is it start in June, May? When does it open up?
Yeah, I mean, for Canada, it starts relatively early. I think they're often flying in April, sometimes March. You're getting thermals off the mountains. I was actually just visiting there, not flying, but just for a visit, and it kind of looked like it was soarable just this past week or so. So it's certainly with the mountains, it can give you some left. But I'd say the main season probably starts late April, and I mean even to September can be good. But probably the heart of the season is June and July, just because you have the longest days then.
Okay.
In general, well, certainly in Alberta, out of where I fly out, Calgary area, the best season is May. Definitely get the strongest and the highest cloud bases, strongest thermals and the highest cloud bases. Invermere has that as well. Probably the strongest thermals you're going to hit are going to be in May.
Okay.
But the length of the days, of course, increases in June and July, and that's when they're more often flying, 800 to 1,000 kilometer flights. Sometimes pushing 1,200 or so. Keith Essex came out here and was flying 1,200 kilometer flights off these mountains, which was pretty amazing. It takes some nerve, I think, to push into some of the places he went there. But
okay, yeah,
it's I'd say the possibilities here are pretty neat, though, and especially Condor doesn't even quite do the mountains justice. Just how beautiful they are when you're actually flying there.
Yes, wonderful. Yeah, as I said, my familiarity is more with the area from hang gliding. One of the premier hang gliding paragliding sites is just north of Invermere in Golden at Mount 7. And but the season there, because it's a fairly high altitude mountain launch, it's more July when things when it finally actually opens up in terms of getting access to the launch to be able to go. So it's very nice and appealing to hear that the season can start much sooner from the airports in Invermere.
Oh yeah, and this valley certainly makes its own weather. Columbia Valley, it's called, by the way. It's quite often warmer there, and the snow is melting earlier than areas around.
So it's they've been flying the ridge here for a few minutes now. It looks like Con and EGE have stopped to thermal. So they, as we guessed, that they are needing to top up their altitude with thermals. It looks like a okay climb that they're getting so far.
Let's see if I can look at the climb rate there. What's in there?
So yeah, ZL7, yeah, he's getting 6 meters a second right now, down to with Condor we sort of see the instantaneous, so you kind of have to average it out. But it looks like he hasn't hit the center of the thermal. It looks like he might have turned a little bit early, and hasn't quite centered the thermal yet. He's still searching for it.
Yeah, just looking at the playback, it looks like it's tough to center these properly. They all seem to be kind of variable. Have one strong side and one weak side of the thermal. Going up and down.
Yeah, with the normal width thermals, that can be often be the case where you're taking a turn in part of the turn and left, and some of it not quite as strong. Still look like ZL7 is struggling a little bit to find the center of it.
Yeah, with a fully ballasted 20-meter glider, it usually is difficult to center a thermal at the through line.
Yep.
It's actually somewhat true to life. Evermere is always has quite narrow thermals, which can be a challenge.
Okay, so we got this is great. We have the live tracking overview here, and we got fairly decent size grouping here. There's it looks like KH and W22 are sort of pushing out ahead early, but there's a sizable group there that looks like they're stopping or maybe headed to that thermal to top up. And if we can zoom out a bit, we'll see how where some of the other competitors are at in terms of if they've still holding out for the start, or if they headed out. So it looks like we have basically all the competitors almost are out on course now. So there's no extremely late starts going on here. So this should be good. It's fairly close grouping, I think.
Yeah, it looks like a big gaggle. Just left Vermeer maybe 3 or 4 minutes ago, something like that.
Yeah, and they just all starting to pass over the front range there and cross through the valley to the back range. So you can see if the one kind of turquoise track, I think that's KH. You can see his track. He did follow a little bit closer to the top of the ridge. So be interesting how much extra energy he potentially got from taking a slightly higher position on there. Sometimes it's sometimes though it's sometimes the ridges do produce decently further out. But sometimes falling right along the crest of the ridge, particularly if it has kind of a sharp kind of top to the ridge, you can get a little bit of extra energy being right along the top of it.
Yeah, like some of those other competitors are much further down the ridge. I assume they're low. Let me see if I can take a look.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's showing 6,300 for Zulu uniform Zulu there.
Yeah. Yeah, and ZL7, he was struggling with the thermal a little bit there. It looks like he's also a bit low on the thermal, whereas some of the other EJE who he's with in that thermal, a few of the others are much higher on the ridge now.
I guess the leader there. Let's keep 22.
Okay, yeah.
zoom up my screen.
Yeah, there's a big Congo line of gliders coming through the valley now.
Yeah, the leader there, Whiskey 22, is just coming up on White Swan Lake.
And Chris, you're speaking of the kind of the season in Canada and the best timing.
Last couple of days. Tasked mostly over 500 kilometers. So it was pretty great for Canada. I know there's some sites that can do better than that, but for Canada flatland flying, it was pretty spectacular. And we flew 7 out of the 10 days. I think probably could have flown on a couple of the other days that we flew off, but the weather was so good that we figured we can just wait another day. So yeah, it was a fantastic contest, and excited. We're going to be hosting a contest this year out of the QNIM Gliding Club, which is just south of Calgary. We're calling it the Western Soaring Championships, Western Canadian Soaring Championships, and just in the middle of May we'll be hosting them. So we're hoping for another good spurt of weather. I know Ryan here was flying a Blanik L33, and on the last day he flew. Do you know how many kilometers it was? I know it was over 300, but he flew at a task speed of 95 kilometers an hour, which is pretty fantastic for an L33.
Yeah, the conditions just seemed to, like, we thought the start of the competition was amazing. Even the practice days, there were some people flying 750 kilometer OLC flights, and it just seemed to keep getting better and better as it went on. Either that, I think the competitors, at least for myself, were starting to get more confidence and adapting to the conditions more and starting to push a bit faster. If it was a 6-knot climb, maybe that's not good enough. Leave that one and try to go find a 8 or 9-knot climb. And we're able to start to push the speeds faster and faster. So it was exciting, particularly for myself, because I'm newer to the gliding world. My experience is more as a long-time hang glider, paraglider pilot, and so it was my first my first competition and race, and it was a good one to choose for the first event. It was definitely a amazing time and incredible conditions, and it was fantastic.
There we go. Just had the first competitor turn the second turn point, White Swan Lake area. A couple tight on his heels.
Yep. What kind of average speeds are we finding so far on course here? I don't know if they can pull that up on that. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, W22 is actually he's pulling off a great average speed so far, 141 kilometers, and he's not particularly low at the moment. ZUZ as well. He's moving along quickly, so they definitely are utilizing some of the energy from the ridge to keep their speeds up, because it'd be hard to get 145 kilometers an hour in weak thermal conditions. So the ridge is producing some for them.
And although Uniform Zulu has got a little bit of a higher average speed, it's quite a bit lower down in the valley there. So
okay, yeah.
To climb back up to catch Whiskey 22, we'll probably lose that advantage that he has at the moment. But
yeah, I mean, it's these overlays and some of the tools that they've put together here for doing the live streaming are great, and it'll be really interesting if they're able to add some extra information and extra details, so you actually start to see more of the what the true energy position is, and get a sense of that, and it will add some interesting dynamics. Sometimes that looks fast, but you have a lot of time to make up for yet in the climb, which will obviously reduce the speed a lot.
And it looks like Kilo Hotel also made the turn and is heading up to the next turn point. So,
and it looks like W22 here is he's wanting to get to the top of the ridge, because he stopped and he did some figure eights there just to try to top out to ridge. He still actually looks like he's still doing the figure eights. So he's wanting to top out. I'm not sure if he's planning on passing over the back at this point, or if he's going to follow back along the ridge. But he's wanting to get up there and get maximized on the ridge.
Certainly, Kilo Hotel is just pushed along a little bit further inside. So these are the kind of strategies I was curious to see how these guys did it, because there's definitely going to be two different ways to skin a cat here.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like he was climbing particularly fast while he was figure eighting there. So I'm assuming there's a reason he's really wanting to get the height here that he can, unless it's just my perspective and I can't quite see it to the climb rate that he's achieving. So we got one of the competitors here inside their cockpit. I'm not sure which pilot this is. Okay, and this must be one of the live streams that they're streaming. We can see there in the top right, for any of our viewers that aren't familiar, that's a tool called Katasa, and it gives some extra information to the pilots. You can see their WB, that's their amount of water ballast. It shows what flap setting they presently have. So this must be the Arcus. Because there's a flap setting there. It shows these -1 flaps, and this is perhaps for myself what I find the most useful with Katasa. One of the most useful things, besides the audio alarm of when you're reaching VNE, is it has a very I find it to be a very responsive netto. So the N there is the netto variometer, so it's telling the pilot what the climb rate is of the air that he's in, and that can be that's really useful for when you're pulling up and you're observing the strength of the thermal, deciding whether you're going to turn in it or to pass through. Watching that netto can be really useful, and also for being on the ridge here and seeing what the ridge is providing in terms of strength. And it is somewhat there's not getting a lot of extra netto or extra energy off the ridge, but it definitely is something. And you'll see here now, let's watch the effect of when he gets to the steeper part of the ridge and see how much extra netto he gets. Now that could be a thermal, because it looks like he's decided to turn in that. And let's see what kind of climb rates that he gets in this lift here. So yeah, for myself, I actually I find that I use the netto off of Katassa there quite a bit for judging thermals. So he decided to take one turn in that. Didn't really see a strong climb rate around the circle, and is continuing on down the ridge. And it's a nice a nice slope here on this ridge, and yeah, see how much energy that he gets from it.
Yeah, I certainly noticed the netto has been going in the positives the whole way, and some spots even stronger. This one's showing pretty good.
Yeah.
So the ridge is certainly working. Not super strong though.
Yeah. And this is and just to clarify, he does have his unit set to metric, so that's meters a second.
Yes.
The netto showing. So it's
oh, that's right.
Yeah, so it's if we're used to thinking in knots, it's actually it's quite a lot better than we might be thinking.
That's right.
And yeah, it definitely has been his increased has been gaining altitude during this portion here. So yeah, the ridge is producing.
And he's looking up at a cloud there, so, and a couple guys thermaling above, so
yeah,
maybe he's expecting a thermal here somewhere. But
yeah, it looks like it's maybe a little bit past the ridge now at this point. Just kind of looking at the position of it. But, this is one of the areas where the virtual reality goggles are a nice tool to have, because you can look around very fluidly, very very easily. And get a sense of the position of the clouds and where the thermals are.
Yeah, I have a head tracker on my setup, and watching this makes me very jealous, because I think it works better than the virtual reality is definitely better than the head tracker, but that's a step above having just a flat screen as well. So
it definitely is. Yeah, the head tracker certainly helps a lot as well. I find I was using that. I used that a little bit before I got into the virtual reality flying. I got a lot more serious about Condor last winter, is when I kind of got into it a fair bit more seriously. Maybe that coincided with moving back to Saskatchewan and it being -30.
Yeah, cold winter. Well, that's interesting. I think we see Con's coming just the opposite way. Probably opposite way. This turn the turn point and is heading up that ridge, going the opposite way.
Yeah,
heading for the third turn point.
And how's your is your spectator mode on and working there, Chris?
I think I got this. No, it's still going here. Actually, I have Con on.
I'm going to pull up see if I can pull up the link to the OGN tracker on my computer and keep an eye on how they're doing.
Oh, it's running up the computer here.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, we can see Whiskey 2 pushed a little bit further east, and it seems to be working for him. I guess.
Yeah. Okay. That's one of the. Okay, interesting. That's one of the points I was wondering, is if they would go, if they continue out on the ridge they came in, or if they would, if they had a more direct line, and it looks like that's working. I'm wondering how many pilots are headed back along the way they came in and are taking a little bit more of a detour. But Whiskey 22 did. That's probably why he was topping up his altitude there, is so he could cross over some of the spines to head along this range.
Yeah, it looks like Kilo Hotel, who they're showing in the lead at the moment. He went basically on the same path, heading back, and the one we saw Con going back the same way as well.
Yeah. I
don't see Zulu, uniform Zulu. Oh, he's low on the same path, but almost in the valley there again.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. So there's a split of strategies now. So it'll be really be curious to watch how these work, or which ones pay off.
Yeah, Whiskey 22 is pushing against that small little valley there.
So yeah, he's looks like he's in definitely a bit of sync as he's crossing here. He's flying fairly fast as well. Trying to probably punch through the sink a little bit and make it to that to the next ridge.
You definitely wouldn't want to be in that type of altitude in real life flying,
Okay,
but I say you can kind of see some roads from forestry and things like that, but yeah, there's not much to land at in this area.
Yeah, you'd want to stay more kind of right at mountaintop height, probably, basically. Hey, if you're exploring to this part of the range,
I think you probably want to be
even
a
higher.
good bit above, the mountains, at least in my opinion. But
yeah, because he's 2,100 meters right now. Okay, and yeah, look at KH is it looks like quite a good climb, and there's has JKK caught up to him? I think JKK is still headed towards the second turn point. I think he took a later start.
Yeah, he's behind. But yeah, you can see Whiskey 22 in the background there, and probably that's a bit of an advantage.
Yeah,
pushing it that way.
I right now my feeling is staying on the primary ridge, or staying on the I guess on the ridge they came in on. I think that's what I would have done myself, but I haven't had a chance to analyze the map and terrain in detail yet. So
in the cockpit of
okay, so this is SOL again.
SOL, okay. Yep. And yeah, I guess he must have taken a late start because I think he's still heading the first turn point.
Yeah. And so he's at he's in a nice position. He's at 3,000 meters, so I think he's in a fairly good energy position on the ridge. The ridge isn't it's not strong enough that you can just fly along it close to VNE and just maximize your speed. He's a bit higher above it, and staying in nice position, so that you can maintain the extra netto boost that you're getting from the ridge.
So at least he's not getting a netto boost at the moment, or he's in variable mode.
So you might see his you can see his netto on his LK8000. So it looks like he's getting about 1.8 meters a second. So it's seems to be producing fairly well for him. And what's the speed he's flying at? Yeah, so he's flying. Looks like he's flying maybe about 170, 180 kilometers an hour right now, airspeed.
Yeah. So I know there's some people who fly in Condor always in the let's say cruise mode or the netto type of mode, and some switch. And I was wondering what you do, Ryan.
So myself, I used to switch it a lot more, so you can toggle your Vario from making the speed to fly kind of cruise sound versus the audio Vario beeping. And particularly with using Katasa, I have the Netto on that, so I just leave my Vario in regular auto Vario mode, and then I have some kind of information on what my current climb rate is. From the audio, and then I can see what the Netto is doing, and I use you still have the visual speed to fly indicators visually to kind of see what your speed to fly is. So I just use the visual indicators to kind of take a look at what my speed to fly is. How about yourself, Chris? Do you switch it back and forth between the modes?
Oh yeah, I've been switching back and forth. So I guess just like I usually do in a glider, but I found that keeping it in the cruise mode a little bit longer than when I do in a real glider flight is useful for trying to figure out what the thermal strength is, because when you put it into the climb mode, I'd say you don't get as much of a feeling. When in real life flying, you feel it on your bum whether the thermal's going up. But of course, we don't have that in Condor flying, so
yep.
Using the Netto is useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like we have on our interface here, it looks like we have 2 streams to choose from. So I'm going to take a look to see which one is on the YouTube, just so I know which one our audience is following along with.
What do we got here?
And it looks like there's still 16 minutes left in the start gate, but I'm assuming everybody is out on course by now. I don't know if anyone's actually returned to or felt they needed to take a second chance and take a second start at it.
What's the call sign of this glider? Sorry, say again. PLT. Okay.
So this is PLT.
Correct.
And it looks like he is headed, which is so he's tagged the second turn point is headed back along the ridge. Yeah,
looks like a lot of people have done that. I think Whiskey 22 is one of the only guys who head a little bit further east. It'd be interesting to see if that is going to be a good choice or not. And yeah, it's good gaggle of folk heading up this same ridge. So on a ridge test, or it's relatively ridge type of task like this, Ryan, do you look at the topography and plan out a route ahead of time, or is it try to figure that out just as you're flying, or what do you usually do?
Both. So partly depending on how much time you have and how much time the join time you have. With a race like this, 20 minutes join time, what I would do is I would log into the server, get the routes, take a quick look at it in Condor, and kind of get a sense from there. And actually what I recently started doing is I will export the file using the utility, I believe it's called Katako, and it converts the files, and I convert it to a cup file. And then I put that into CU Online, so I can do a bit of the previewing of the route in their map. And what that allows me to do is to actually add waypoints along the way, where I put a bunch of waypoints in particularly at the different mountain passes. So the areas where, okay, I want to know what altitude this pass is going to be at, or I want to know which altitude this ridge is going to be at, so I can be in good position when I get to that ridge. And I'll put those waypoints in. And then XC has the ability to add special waypoints. I don't think that's the right terminology, but you can add these watched waypoints, I believe. And then what they'll do is they'll show up in XC and it will tell you, it will give you arrival altitude similar to how it handles airports. So I can actually have a series of waypoints that I'm not using for navigation. I'm only using them to get a visual of my arrival altitude at these key passes and key areas on the map. So I started doing that, I'd say in the past month or so. So I find that actually a useful technique for previewing and planning the route. But it does make a substantial difference the more time that you have to really analyze the route. I think it's key for the mountain tasks, at least ones where there's not like obvious choices, where it's just like one ridge where you actually have numerous options that you have to decide between. The analysis is really important, but sometimes you just don't have that luxury. Either you haven't had time to do it, you join late, then in which case I'm doing a lot of kind of previewing and trying to decide on the fly. Particularly like using XCSOAR and like moving around, panning around, and trying to decide the routes. Okay, on the fly, which way do I want to go? But then there's also revising, because things end up looking different once you're on the map in the scenery for real. It's sometimes the ridges have a different shape, or the route just presents differently than in your analysis, and then you adapt and you change. So there's pre-planning, but then there's also adapting, or you get stuck and you weren't able to get the altitude you needed for your desired route, and you have to go a different one, and kind of make it up as you go. But definitely doing some pre-planning, I found that pays off. That pays off a lot in doing the mountain pass. But yeah, there can be a lot going on with these tasks and a lot to make, which is kind of partly what's so interesting about it. So yeah, this is Zulu. Looks like ZL7 again.
Papa Lima 7, whatever it is. But I think that's the one that we were just looking at. So Papa Lima Tango, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There it is.
See, Delta Golf that's well out of. He's below these ridges, so he's got to figure something out here. So yeah. I'm sure he's hoping to find some lift to get himself over top of this spline. Or does he have glide? Yeah, that's tight. Pulling up a bit. Oh, yeah. Bit of a pull up, managed to get over top.
Yeah.
We lost it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I find in doing the mountain task. One of the habits that you really need to get yourself out of is just doing those daring maneuvers on the mountain passes, where you just build up your speed and pull up the last second and just hope that you clear the pass. Yeah. I've ruined too many races. Trying to do these, aggressive, more arcade style flying, where it's like, let's see if I can get over that, and then you're, really disappointed because you've ruined your race by a really stupid maneuver. So I've done a little bit too much of that myself. Yeah. I think it actually pays off to fly a little bit more conservatively, give yourself a little bit more margin, and your results will manage better in the long run by doing it that way. I think that's pilots that approach it with a little bit more of a what I would do in real life mentality, then they're a lot more conservative on some of those mountain crossings. Well,
I find gliding, especially any kind of gliding, either cross country flying or racing. Yeah. It's kind of risk management is what you're doing most of the time. Is should I push and hope that I hit a 8-knot thermal, or should I stick with this 6-knot thermal? And what are the risks of missing the next one, or not finding that 8 knots or whatever it is? So, and similar with ridges, should I keep on pushing on this ridge, which doesn't seem to be working, or find another choice?
Yeah, and I think one of the things with that is that the upsides, the gains can sometimes be relatively small.
Yeah.
To like, hey, I'm gonna just push on. I'm just gonna get a little bit better of a climb. I'm gonna push a little bit faster, and try to get a little bit faster speed along this ridge versus easing up and trying to gain a little bit more height. It can be fractional gains on that, but the downsides can be so much worse because you just put yourself into a position that you then have to backtrack to salvage or to get out of it. So I think the more cautious flying can be rewarded in the long run. I've had myself, I know, a number of tasks where, let's say I've decided early on in the task, and maybe there's a small ridge, but okay, I'm going to thermal up and get high. And then I'm like, oh, I'm worried because it looks like all the guys down low are getting all that bonus netto that I'm not getting. But then sure enough, halfway through the course, all of a sudden they're landing out, they're stuck. and taking that extra height has is maybe a tiny little bit slower at the start, but it put me in a lot better position. Unfortunately, I fly the other way just as much as the conservative way. So, but yeah, I think I'm trying to get myself into flying a little bit more cautiously, and not not wrecking the task by pushing ahead too hard and then landing out. That's always just disappointing when you crash or land out and it's over.
Not sure. I can't read that glider very well, but
yeah, it looks like it's PM6 there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they're able to pull up an overview of the kind of a map view, kind of see a high level of where our different pilots are at, or the OGN. We could take a look at that.
Oh, that's interesting. Kilo Hotel and Whiskey 22 were out in front, and there's Whiskey 22 took that different route, but he's still similar spot as Kilo Hotel, just behind.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and sometimes you have these routes and they look drastically different, and then when they come back together, it can be a matter of seconds. That was the difference between them.
Some of the other guys that we're following is that Papalima Tango. I don't know if you can see him.
And it's funny, and after the race is done and you look at the map and like what the best route was or what the winning route was, then it all seems so obvious. It all seems so clear. It's like, oh, that was clearly the best route. But hindsight's 2020, I guess, as the saying goes. And
So Papalima Tango, who we were following a little bit earlier, he's almost hit the fourth turn point. Obviously, that doesn't count for anything, but he's almost at the fourth turn point there with other little gaggle, and they're all pushing up a different route as well.
Yeah.
So a whole bunch of different routes digging.
Yeah. Yeah, and So and now Kilo Hotel is is he the discus?
No, I think these two are Arcus.
Both Arcus.
Kilo Hotel is only an Arcus.
Okay.
And Whiskey 22, I'll take a look. Yeah, both Arcus.
Yeah, Whiskey 22 is Arcus, and Whiskey 22 is he definitely has the altitude over top of Kilo Hotel, so it may have worked out that Whiskey 22's route was advantageous.
Yeah. And actually, we're coming up to, I guess it's still probably 20 or so kilometers to the next turn point here, but just off to the west of the third turn point is Mount Assiniboine, which is the highest mountain in that area. Let me look up how high that is. I'm not sure off my head, but I think it's getting definitely above 10.
In Whiskey 22, it definitely looks like he's trying to stay. He's trying to stay close to the top of the ridge line here, and maximize how much netto he's getting from the ridge lift. So he's potentially flying a little bit slower and trying to get as much lift as he can. Yeah,
and these mountains are getting higher as you get in here as well. We're close to Invermere. It's more like 8,000 feet at the tops, but pushing a little bit closer, it's getting into the tens, so even higher.
Yeah, and is there? I know there was approaching the turn point there. There was a bit of there is a valley path that you can go through. It's a little bit more on the way to the fourth turn point that you can take a valley route. So I'm not sure what type of if there's going to be any significant passes that they have to get through. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So we can see the view here Okay, yeah, and you can see the you can see Whiskey 22's route there, and he managed to get right on top of the ridge line there, and I think that's going to give him a little extra energy. I'm going to be wondering if he's going to continue this this ridge that he's on, or in a little bit here if he'll take a little bit of a turn to the right to hit the end of the ridge that is just to the east, instead of taking a detour along the primary ridge he's on right now.
Yeah, so he's got the advantage of being a bit higher, so you can always.
Yeah, if we zoom out, we can see how many other pilots took his route versus going back along the ridge the way they came in.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see almost 3 different routes there.
It looks like there's 3 routes that are appearing here.
Yeah, Echo Juliet Echo at the top there is taking a more westerly one, and then there's the guys on the left side of the screen there who went well west. Zulu Uniform Zulu is one of them.
Yep. It looks like presently PM6. He has his average speed is looking well, so it is looking, from what I can see so far here, looking at some of the average speeds. So, for example, Khan, it looks like he went back along the way they came in, and his average speed is 113 kilometers an hour now. There's PM6, and he's it looks like he's in good position in terms of his speed and his height. So it's seeming like this the more easterly route, the more direct route to the third turn point is the one that seeming to deliver the highest speed so far. I'm curious how I don't know if we're able to see how some of the later starters are doing in terms of in some of their speeds. I don't know if you can see that on your spectator mode, Chris, but
I can take a look.
What some of these other competitors will choose for their route.
Sorry, I was looking through here. I mean, so far it looks like most of the the Kilo Hotel and Whiskey 22 are ahead there, but PM6 I think does have the best speed of anybody.
Yep.
It's not a late start. Yeah, there's maybe one or two guys who are. Oh, Whiskey Romeo Uniform is pretty fast there, and one of the later starters. That might be somebody to watch.
Yep. Yeah, and ZBY is another fairly highly ranked pilot. Actually, I think on Condor Club they have what's called the CC rating, which is sort of a say weighted average of your results in tasks relative to other pilots. So kind of gives it's somewhat like a ranking that they would use in chess or other games, and give a sense a bit of an approximation for skill. And I think it's like eight of the top 10 or something like that is it's Polish pilots. So there's a lot of good Condor pilots from Poland, and I believe that's also true to real life, isn't it? Isn't Sebastian Kawa a Polish pilot as well?
Yes, yeah. No, I think
fighter pilots in the world. So I don't know what Poland has going on for gliding, but I think they're doing something right.
Yeah. No, I know Poland had some state-run gliding. I'm not sure if that's still going on, but they certainly did have state-run gliding clubs. So that certainly helped it partly. And of course, they have the manufacturers there. The Diana 2 is an excellent glider, but go back to Jantars and SD55s and all that. They have some pretty great airplanes that came out of there as well.
Yeah. How would you compare to say some of these countries and how the sport is going in many places in Europe versus Canada? Like, do you are there big differences? I mean, I think there's a lot more activity in some countries in Europe and a lot more pilots per capita. But what's your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, yeah, certainly the Europe seems to be gliding is the largest there, or the most popular. Now, I think part of the reason, Germany is the biggest, and the closer to Germany are, the more it helps. Of course, France is really big as well in gliding. And then for flying a contest, if you want to fly a contest in Europe, traveling even to another country would be called a pretty small drive in Canada, where flying a nationals in Canada usually involves driving. It depends what side of the country you're on, but it could involve driving 3 or 4 days. So certainly this, I think the competition pilots in Europe kind of have an advantage of being close to each other, and you can easily drive to a really high end competition there, where it can be quite a long journey in Canada or North America in general. Going in US, there's some good competitions, but those can be long drives as well.
So Con is in has taken a higher altitude position that he's gone for. He must have topped out close to cloud base, I'm assuming, because it looks like he's quite high, and maybe his speeds will start to pick up. He topped out. He's definitely topped out at cloud base there, and he's taking the high road. It looks like. Looks like ZBY is also flying a little bit closer to the mountain ridges, and he's taking that route more so.
So Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your hang gliding career?
Yeah, so I guess it's 20 years is my just a few months ago. I think that would have been my 20-year hang gliding anniversary. So I started hang gliding when I grew up in Saskatchewan, and started doing that out here. I was actually doing my private pilot license just coming out of high school. Was thinking, I might want to do be a pilot in terms of a career. Didn't end up going that route, but I still wanted to fly just for the recreation and enjoyment of flying. And I was like, hang gliding would be a much more affordable way to fly. Tried it one time, and I was absolutely hooked. It was much more fun than flying the small airplanes. So did quite a bit of that. I helped run a hang gliding school or hang gliding business out in when I was living in Ontario. So did a lot of instructing in hang gliding as well. And when I moved back to Saskatchewan a couple of years ago, then there's a gliding club that's was not too far away and very affordable rates. And so I started doing gliding a bit more as the maybe primary sport. Still do as much hang gliding as I can, but now gliding is kind of the primary hobby. Particularly, my interest in gliding is from the racing standpoint, because the racing is so there's just a lot. There's a lot to it. It's very technical, and it's very competitive. And so I'm really drawn to the racing side of gliding, and Condor is definitely a big part of that. Condor is what sort of exposed me to how the racing works, how exacting and competitive, and how close it can be, and just how pure of a form of racing it is. So that's been sort of my interest in in gliding is really, I love the competition and the racing side of things. And it's also nice, if you fly 500 kilometers and you get back to where you took off from, there's there's something there, not having like a 8-hour retrieve. that's also kind of nice. So, as is like eating in the cockpit, sitting back, relaxing. It's all good.
Well, it's interesting what just happened here. Whiskey 22 managed to turn the third turn point, but Kilo Hotel wasn't quite high enough, and just has to looking for a thermal to push into the turn point. So
now it looks like he has to ridge soar to try to top up. So
staying high was a good strategy for Whiskey 22.
Yeah, exactly. That's back to what I was saying. That kind of being conservative, keeping your altitude, and then you're not maybe stuck in marginal lift. Just trying to get enough altitude so you can make your turn point, so you don't get stuck in a bad position. And if you were fast and everything was going well, and then all of a sudden you're in slow mode, just bleeding off your speed, trying to gain a little bit of height so you can make the pass or so you can make your turn point.
Yeah, I guess they put the turn point just behind this ridge, so. You could go around the back of it, but then you probably hit a whole bunch of sinks. So certainly, I think Kilo Hotel decided that he wanted to stay high on the good side of the ridge, where it's going up instead of on the downside on the backside.
Yeah,
I think struggling to get there.
Yeah, I think he would have been able to sneak around the backside, but as you said, that can be. He could also, be in a lot of bad air for a period of time with that. So it looks like some of these other, looks like a lot of the other guys have factored in they're watching the DDH and the altitude on their on the turn point, and they're deciding to top up so that they can clip it. One of the things they have to factor in too, which is actually, this one's interesting here. So you see the turn point, often the turn point is going to be right at the peak of the ridge, or right at like the top of the knob of the mountain. And then you can sort of like, oh, well, if it's right at the top, I could go down, maybe even several hundred meters lower, depending on the width of the turn point, and still get it. Whereas this one's a little sneaky, that the turn point is down the backside of the mountain. So the reading of their DDH is there's not going to be near as much extra margin to work with, particularly if they're wanting to hit it on the front side and not get into the lee side. So it's an interesting placement that requires is maybe a little less forgiving, requires a little bit more planning. And as you can see, a lot of the pilots here are like, we better top up in a thermal so that we can make it.
Yeah, it's like Kilo Hotel did have to go to the backside of the mountain there a little bit, maybe not the full back, but at least the side to turn it. But he's finally turned it and started heading on course.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's back on his way, and
a bunch of pilots there in a thermal, making sure they have enough height to hit that turn point. Yeah. Nice. Kilo Hotel is going to go join that thermal as well.
Well, now Kilo Hotel's leg is basically going, fairly directly into the wind. So he's not going to maybe not benefit from ridge quite as much on the way back. Although I guess through the valley a bit, they'll be using some ridge, I think, to get to the fourth turn point. And how's Whiskey 22 doing here? He's looks like he's made the turn point and is headed back to the fourth turn point. I don't know if you're able to pull up. We'll take a look at what our average speeds are for our competitors here and see how everyone's faring.
It's a 10-kilometer difference now between Whiskey 22 and Kilo Hotel. So making that turn point made a big difference.
Yeah, and we'd seen earlier that Con had, his speed had slowed down to about 112, but it looked like he got really high and topped up, and now his speed is coming back up. He's climbing as well in this thermal. It looks like a decent a decent angle to the spiral there. So it must be a good climb. A lot of the guys are taking this one to top up.
And you can still see Con's kind of they're not fully centering the thermal. It's definitely an up and a down part of it. But
yeah,
I think they're strong enough that it's still giving a pretty good average climb.
And if we look further down the list here, that it looks like there's some decent speeds from some of the guys coming from behind. KL is doing 136. KMI is doing 131. Yeah, and ZBY is looks like he's got a good time. So it'll be interesting as they start crossing the finish line to see if the times are going to be increasing from the back runners here, or if, you know, for example, W22, if he's really on a flyer and being out front and not having anyone to mark his thermals is working out okay for him. So KH is he's not in that thermal anymore. He's back out on glide, and I don't know if we're able to go to W22. We can see check out what altitude he's at. Okay, he's back along the edge of the ridge there, and
it's a bit low entering that ridge. You can see all the guys above him, but you can get
his
back
video
up.
is not singing exactly. It's in the negatives here, or it was.
But he's somewhat getting an advantage of getting all the people who started behind him. He's getting them as markers for lift as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the route crosses back on itself a number of different places on this course. So, so perhaps the disadvantage for being out front is mitigated a little bit by the route choice. Okay, so now the strategies looks like they've reversed slightly, where Kilo Hotel has topped up slightly and is closer to the top of the ridge, and W22 is pushing further down the ridge a little bit.
I think Whiskey 22 went just past that thermal that Kilo Hotel was in, and probably wishing that connected with that.
Are you able to see the average speed for SOL, Chris? I'm curious what his speed's at. It looks like he had good altitude there as he's coming north on the ridge.
SOL is showing 135.
Okay, so he has a nice speed as well. Is there anyone else that stands out as having pretty good average speed so far?
Yeah, I say Whiskey Romeo uniform is it's flying a duodiscus, and the average speed is quite a bit higher. Although, well, it's still early on course, so that might be only half an hour in, where these guys are well into an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'd be looks like almost everyone is needing to top up in a thermal before they reach the turn point. So if that was a particularly good thermal, how long is it going to last for? Or is there going to be anyone that gets potentially stuck having to scratch the ridge to get their altitude, or dive down the backside to get the turn point low and lose a lot of extra energy from that? It still looks like there's quite a gaggle that's there, but okay, it looks like AM just bumped a thermal there. Yeah, and there's a decent sized gaggle here that's topping up before the turn point. This must be one of the bigger gaggles that started a little bit later in the race. There's quite a few guys that are synced up here.
We take a quick look at the map view, and see where everyone is relative to each other. Other than this, I guess you can see most of them here. But I guess we're Ski 22 is probably it's close to the last turn point. And the hotel's a little bit back there. It's hard to follow him with all these traces, but he's got a pretty good lead on everybody. And I think the next kind of gaggle is starting where Kilo Hotel is. Right.
So I know, Chris, at your club at QNIM, that from what I hear is you've had some good positive growth and momentum kind of happening at your club here. Is there anything that kind of highlights from that stand out to you?
Well, there's a few things I think our club has done well recently. We weren't gaining members very quickly. Our president is a master at marketing. I don't know, Patrick, his name is. He's done really well at getting the word about gliding, and we've really concentrated on getting more people to the solo stage, which I think I think everyone wants to do that, but really making a focus of it and sticking to our curriculum a bit better and getting students solo has been a big part of the growth at our club. And we've also had to pull back on the amount of students that we accept because of the instructor availability, which we are getting more and more instructors, but keeping that in proportion to the amount of students we take to make sure that the students have the opportunity to go solo if they show up at the club on a normal basis. So yeah, our club has been growing, which is kind of the opposite of most clubs in the world, from what I understand. So we're very happy with that. And I say part of it's just our marketing and such, and then part of it is getting the training a little more organized. And there's still lots of room to go on that, but we've been getting at least for our size of club, we're about 60 members. We've been getting 5 solos a year in the club, which is not bad for our club. And I guess one of the other things we pushed, which is actually somewhat of a commercial opportunity thing, is a few of us, including myself, Patrick McMahon, who's the president of the Gliding Club, and Casey Brown, who's our technical guy and treasurer of the Gliding Club. We started out a program called Proving Grounds, which is to help new pilots get into soaring. And it's basically a set of three tasks for a gliding club that starts with usually a 50-kilometer task, and then a 100-kilometer task, and a 150-kilometer task. Kind of in between of doing a silver badge. The 50-kilometer task is a task of turn points close into an airport, so you can stay close within glide range, and then just a 100 and 150 are just to build on that task. And we've made a program that evaluates the flights and gives you speed. That's kind of taken off around. Most of the clubs in Canada now have a proving ground set up. We're got a good amount into the US, and we've started into the Netherlands and Holland. I think we're 7 or 8 clubs at the moment in the Netherlands. It's about 50 gliding clubs total have taken on the proving grounds. And then one of the great things about the proving grounds is it fits really nicely into condor tasking. So we've been that's how I got to know Ryan, is through his proving grounds, really. Started a proving grounds league, or condor league, flying proving grounds tasks around the world now. So that's been a pretty successful program for us, and I think it's brought a lot of new people to cross-country soaring.
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of scaffold people into cross country. Like the first course, basically they're usually within glide of their airfield, right? So it's it's a fairly comfortable way, but they're still working on a fixed task. They're still having to navigate. They're still getting a little bit of the satisfaction of seeing, uploading their track and getting the time back, and maybe competing with other club members. And then the next task up from there, build on that, and it's a really it's something that I started using in my first season of gliding right away, particularly when I was still I still hadn't finished the number of flights that I needed for my license, so I wasn't allowed to go full cross country. I wasn't allowed to be like out of range, but I could just do laps of the proving ground of the small course and see what kind of time I could get on it. So it seemed to be a really user friendly, easy way to cultivate some practical steps towards cross country. So yeah, it seemed to work great. And yeah, and the complimentary online competition in the winter has been I think really successful in bringing together, like, especially a lot of there's a lot of Canadian pilots on there, and it's a great way to get to know and to socialize with other pilots from across Canada and North America in the off season. So those ones have been a lot of fun too, those tasks.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably part of the reason why you joined the Nationals last year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was it was that. See, it was my getting into Condor seriously that winter. It's like, oh, okay, I gotta do this. Got to make this happen in real life. And the Nationals being 6 hours away was just a great opportunity to be able to participate in that. Great opportunity too in terms of a first competition, being out in the wide open prairies, made it very accessible from that potential of outlanding side of it. So yeah, it was a great kind of a great path into the sport for myself, for sure.
I should note to people in Europe that 6 hours is a short drive in Canada.
Yeah,
that might not be the case in Europe.
Yeah, that's very close for a competition.
Yeah.
So it looks like W22. He was starting to approach in on the next turn point. It looks like he just hit it. Okay. And I'm wondering if we can get kind of the behind shot. We'll see what his glide is looking like towards the finish. Does he have final glide in sight, or does he still have a crossing to make before he gets there? Looks like the scenery was loading for a second there. There it is. So so there's the start. So this will be an interesting part of the race. Might be one of the more challenging pieces, where it is looking like he is going to need to top up. Potentially if it take a little bit more, I don't know if the valley is a little bit lower to the left there, to the south. If he's headed that direction, if he's going to try to cut through the valley a little bit lower, it looks like that might be the course he's taking. But at least to kind of at a rough glance here, definitely looking like he's going to need to find another thermal, I think. Depending how much room there is through the valley route and through the pass there for him to get through.
Yeah, through that gap that he's putting out right now, there's definitely some higher ground ahead of it. So he might be able to ridge short a little bit up the or through that valley and then past the next gap. But
yeah,
looking at it from now, yeah, I think you're right that he's going to need a climb.
I don't know. Maybe we can flip to the map view and take a look at what that's showing us.
I guess you can see a lot of pilots went through that on the way out, so that's what he's aiming for on the way back.
Yeah, that's looking like the best way back in as well, for sure. If that was, there must have been the ridge must have been, it is aligned to the wind roughly, and it's it's not significant enough of a detour. So yeah, so now I'm interested to see what his if he does have enough altitude to get through there, or if there is going to need to be more thermaling. And it looks like KH is just arriving at the penultimate turn point as well here.
It looks like he's caught a little bit of ground on Whiskey 22.
Yeah,
I think Whiskey 22 probably still ahead, but caught a little bit because Whiskey 22 got a little bit lower Kilo Hotel at the height. So be interested to see his path.
It looks like he might be headed on a more direct line, so perhaps he has extra altitude. We can see our scoreboard and see kind of what position some of our pilots are in here. Yeah, there's KH there, and definitely looks like he's going a different direction. So, yeah, W22 is out a ways out now in front, and yeah, what are our times looking like in terms of average speeds here? Take a peek at that. I'm not sure if there's any of the later starters, if their times have slowed down with that thermaling they were needing to do before the fourth turn point. Okay, so KH is he's elected to fly along this ridge for a while before he does the crossing.
It's a bit low. I just took a look because it's 6,500 feet.
Okay.
Where Whiskey 22 is still at 7, or was when I just looked. So
okay, he's hoping to find a thermal along the ridge.
Yeah.
So it looks like SOL is flying along quite well here. He's at 137 kilometers an hour, and he is he's at ridge height, approaching a thermal. So seems like he's in quite good position so far, from what I can see on at least the top 20 score sheet, and he's come up to 13th place from what looked like about a mid-pack start. So he seems to be making quite good time.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how far he is from the last turn point, but I don't know. That might be the best.
Yeah, if we can get a sense of the turn point into perspective, we'll kind of see where he.
Oh, you can see the background there.
Yeah. So he's headed back to the fourth turn point.
He's got lots of markers ahead of him. So.
Yeah, and there's got kind of a solid grouping of quite a few of the fairly high-ranked pilots are in this grouping here. So yeah, but it appears that SOL is the one that's managed to leapfrog a little bit on the times, and maybe leapfrog a bit of the groupings and get himself up in a better position. And is he in the Discus, or is he flying the Arcus?
I'll take a look. SOL is in the Duo Discus, so that's a very
okay.
Yeah.
So it's quite a good time in more generously handicapped glider.
Yeah. Yeah, Whiskey 22 is an Arcus, so it's definitely an advantage.
And how is Whiskey 22 doing?
Oh, right on the
Okay, so he is jumping water. He's pushed into this valley pass, and this is the back to the get high, stay high. Although he may not have had too many options to choose from, because it was looking like there wasn't many clouds through the valley crossing there, or many options for him to thermal up. So he was probably pushing ahead, hoping to find something en route to be able to get up. I don't know if did Whiskey 22 if he actually landed or crashed there, or if it was just a bit of the altitude. Okay, so he did. He's still flying, dumping his water. and he made it over. He just must have made it over the pass. It looked like it may have been fairly tight.
Yeah, I think he'd be close to having. I think he should be able to get back to the airport by now. Now, whether he makes the
what's his altitude at? Because he has to cross the finish line at 1,200 meters.
He's doing rolls now.
You look like he did a roll there.
I think so.
No, he's just showing off.
Yeah.
He's watching our stream and he's putting on a spectacle for us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. No, I'm curious if but he still has to get over those hills, right? To get to the
I think there might be a route. Yeah, I think there might be a route to get through that there.
Okay, so he has to detour around it.
Yeah. I think at this point he should be able to get back. To the
so he did
at least
let out his water early, so he was feeling the pinch there.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it looked like FF7 was looked like he was taking a similar route. And how's KH doing? Is he still scratching for altitude, or is he was he able to get back up? Oh, it looks like he found a climb now.
Okay. I mean, the disadvantage of here is that you're going to have to climb quite a bit higher and then make all the bridge stops. So quite easy to squeak through that gap.
Yeah, and how much he's detoured to the north, a ways as well, right? So he's definitely going a what appears to be a different route. Trying to get higher and go over the hills versus through the valley. My assumption is going to be most of the competitors will take this route that W22 and FF7 are taking.
Why don't we go back to Whiskey 22? I think he's just about to hit the finish. There we go.
Okay. I don't know if we're able to see his on-screen display of his altitude and ground speed and get a check to see if he's making the finish within the margin of height.
Well, that was the start cylinder we went through, or the start line. So this is the finish coming up. Let's see, Tango Golf Yankees already back at the field. Just landed back.
Yeah, I think the safety altitude is probably usually around 200, 300 meters of altitude above ground. Now, was that the oh no? Okay, that was the start cylinder. Now he's approaching the finish, I believe, or the start line, I should say. Or was that? No, that was the finish. I think he.
I believe it's finished now. Yeah.
So what was his average time at the? Now that he's finished. Okay, so 1 hour 44 minutes.
34. It's 141.7 kilometers an hour it's showing.
Okay, nice. Okay,
finished.
So
his speed. That's doing a
good time.
Doing the finish.
And he was he was out front, kind of flying his own race for the most part.
Yeah. I think he made the got the right choices, staying high, going to that third turn point, and picked the right gap to go through at the finish there. So,
okay, so this is going to be the interesting part coming in, because there is this crossing that that Whiskey 22 was letting his water out for, that they have to make it through this pass. So I'm curious, is FF7 going to struggle with this as well? Does he? It looks like he is. He's turning around. Hopefully, he's found a thermal, but he doesn't seem to be climbing. So he is turning back, and he might have to be scratching along the ridge. Okay, who's coming in above him here? That's EJE. So it looks like EJE might have had the. It looks like he has the altitude to make it from the perspective that I have here. So this will be interesting to watch this this final pass before the finish, and who's going to get who's going to struggle with it. This is part of what we were saying, Chris, about the pre-flight planning and the map work. This is where it can really pay off if you know what altitude that pass is and what you need for it, because the altitude that you need for the finish line, it might be saying you have final made, but there's that pass you got to get through, and knowing that can make quite a difference. There's actually the pilot that has made a lot of the helpful tools for Condor, Kataka, all those tools. He has just released, I think, kind of prototype of a map tool that gives like a lot of detail on your glide and your reachable areas, and I think that's going to be really helpful for scenarios like this where you're wondering if you're gonna make the crossing or not. I think that's going to be a really great tool for mountain tests. So okay, this is good. Alpha Mike has made the pass. That's SK or 3K or 8K.
8K.
His wing was in the way there. He's made the pass, so there's a bunch of guys jumping through there. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. It's going to be a key segment of the course. Is that final crossing? It looks like once they make the crossing, that they have altitude to spare. What speed are these pilots flying at now that they've made the crossing? Are they at V&E? I don't know if we're able to see their ground speed or airspeed that they're at right now. So yeah, okay, this will be great to watch the final results come in. So KEH has definitely I think dropped back down with that detour that he made, or search that he was making for altitude. Okay, here we go. Here's some more information for us. So yeah, a lot of the guys that have made the crossing are now flying fairly fast, probably flying close to V&E. EJE has made it over.
Yeah, just have to.
I don't know if we have the live stream of SOL, we could maybe take even a peek back at that and see how his flight's going from his perspective. And or if we have the map view, we can see how many people are approaching that crossing and who's getting stuck there. FF7. Oh, he's just buffing that ridge. Yeah. Trying to get this. This is really frustrating when you're at this stage. You flew the whole course, maybe having a good time, things are going well, and then you stuck on the last pass and you're having to climb at half a meter a second and just watching your average speed bleed away. Looks like 09 is making it with altitude to spare. Okay, so we can see the guys coming in here.
Yeah, we see most of them kind of went south of course, I guess, to make that.
If we can switch it to rain view, we'll see a sense of the route options that they've taken. Yeah, so yeah, I mean it's a mix here actually. Most people have gone. It looks like KH did revert to this direction as well. They're taking the crossing here, but looks like there's a number of pilots that are going in another direction. Looks like PJ is diverted to the south. It's definitely a higher crossing if he continues straight versus heading to the south there. But looks like PM6 is going going to try to make it over the top.
And most of them are going around. It'd be Swansea, not Swansea there.
Yep.
Good hiking spot.
That's another paragliding, hang gliding site. Actually,
there's a launch off the top there. I've seen that. Yeah.
One of the events, I don't know if they still have it in the summers, but there used to be a splashdown event in the lake in Invermere.
Oh, really?
So the pilots would take off from Mount Swansea and go land in the lake. not glider pilots. I should clarify. That's hang gliding and paragliding pilots.
Yeah, what are the
big grouping passing through there now?
Yeah. One of the interesting parts about this area is that Lake Windermere, that's right there, has the longest skating rink in the world.
Oh, really?
Skating around there, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Ice skates, along with a nice ski mountain to the west, and of course, great for boating in the summer.
Yeah, and there's more pilots getting stuck in ridge purgatory.
Yeah,
here.
They're all hoping for something, the thermal or something.
Yeah.
So obviously important to have that height crossing the range there.
Yeah, having that height is critical. FF7, it looks like he's gained very, very little. MX is letting out his water. Look how many passes that FF7 has done. He's done, looks like a dozen passes, and is not getting much out of it. At some point here, they might be stuck with having to do a big diversion just to try to find a thermal. I don't know if this ridge is producing enough for them to sneak over or not.
Yeah. There's no real lower areas. You have to go quite a ways north or south to find a lower gap. So
I don't know if it's possible that the route that that PJ took, he was further to the north and then he diverted to the south. I don't know if that was a route that was potentially the lowest altitude required, even if it had a lot more circuitous of a path to it. And ZL7, has he made it over? He's taking a bit of a different pass here. He's taking the more northern route, I think. And he has that, looks like he has that crossing made from what I can see.
Yeah. He's making it tight though.
And I'm curious if we can see some of the finishers coming in. What times they're averaging as they're getting close to the line here. Yep, he's made it through. AM has finished. What's some of our average times that they're hitting so far? I don't know if you can see some of them, Chris, and the times that they're averaging.
I just opened up Condor here again. I guess SOL, I assume is still on course. I'm curious to see how his speed is holding up.
It's holding up well.
Oh, sorry, I don't have it right now, but I'm curious to see that.
Yeah, he seems to be having a good time going on there.
Just pulling the stuff up now. Okay, yeah, showing 09 is got 149 kilometers an hour at the moment at the top of the score sheet with Anarchus. Whiskey 22 is 141, and he's actually pushed down to 5th place. Mike Yankee Romeo and Zulu Bravo Yankee and the Arcus is pushed ahead with speeds in 140s. So Let me just look up SOL here.
Yeah, and okay, there's SOL. He is it looks like he's made the crossing with altitude to spare, so I'm sure he's going to be hitting higher speeds, maybe V&E now for the rest of the glide. Looks like his wings were shaking a bit there. Maybe he was at V&E.
Yeah, he's showing 139 kilometers an hour, so
okay, so not
probably pick up a few, but probably won't win.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to take a more direct route to the finish versus kind of going around to the west a little bit. Okay, PLT has made it through. Curious how many pilots we have stuck in no man's land there.
Yeah.
Stuck on the ridge. Poor FF7. All that ridge buffing. They must have got desperate. And okay, this is RPB. He must have flew off course to a thermal because he was stuck there as well. And it looked like he was thermally. He's coming into the finish. I'm not sure if there's if we can see the display if it's possible to see the on-screen display with the average times. Be interesting to watch those as they're coming into to the finish here. Who might be contesting for top place. So yeah, more and more pilots are arriving, and yeah, PLT just finished. It's a fairly large finish cylinder on this race. It looks like.
Yeah, and I guess there is a minimum safety height on that, so it's 1,200 meters, so it's at 3,600 feet ish. So it's probably 800-ish feet above the ground.
How much above the ground do you think it is?
I think it's about 800 feet-ish.
Yeah, something like that's that. Usually about what it is, I think, in the tasks that they put together.
Okay. And yeah, so could change the scores if someone's too low coming into the finish.
Do you have the score sheet up on your end, Chris?
Yeah, I can. I have. SOL just crossed the line and in first place.
First place. Okay, what was his average speed?
Sorry, just wait a second here.
So he's 143 in the duodiscus, being the key thing there.
Yeah.
And the handicap difference on those being let's pull those up. Yeah, so the handicap for the Arcus is 103.4 and the duodiscus is 100.4. That seems like a fairly generous handicap. That's not that much more of a handicap than what the LaBelle gets in this game. That seems not too bad. So EQ is on the way to the finish.
Yeah, most of them are coming in now.
So So yeah, SOL, he was making good time, and now he's the pilot to beat. If I think maybe some of the extra spectator mode tools are potentially not working, but if we can get a score sheet up on the screen, that'd be great to watch those come in. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Condor Club will be actually. We can start watching the scores coming there as well potentially for, or at least see the ranking. If so I think the scores don't come in till the final time slots are finished tomorrow. So pull that up, take a look at it here.
Yeah, 09 was in front, but I believe SOL is going to push him out there.
Yep.
The UVA, Uniform Whiskey Echo, and popping Mike 6, guys we were watching.
Okay. Okay, there we go. There we can see some speeds. That's great. Okay, so yeah, it looks like some nice speeds at the top end, and the probably fairly close on the points from what I can see. If it's 143 versus 149 with the handicap, that's going to be pretty close together. Okay, and it looks like Con was able to make up a fair bit of time during the course there.
I think Con is flying the duo as well, which helps.
Yep.
Yeah, flying the duo. Yeah, here. Yeah, points 09 is showing, or Oscar 9 is showing 981 points to SOL's 1,000 points. So
yep, okay,
pretty close.
So what's fairly close, on the finish there.
I guess we had the answer that no one used wave, although it seemed like there might have been some wave out there.
I think it can be hard to find when the wave is minor. Yeah, we do see a little bit of the thin 2-dimensional Condor lenticulars, but yeah, it wasn't a factor in this race. It was a lot of ridge and a fair bit of thermal as well. All right, so but yeah, still some of the late finishers or late starters coming in.
I don't know if there's anybody. We had one guy who had a high speed. Who was a late starter.
We could okay if we take a look at the OGN map, we'll get a sense of who's still out on course here. Okay, yeah, there's okay, so look at FF7. He stayed on the ridge very literally, and MX and RPB had to take very large backtracks to try to get back out. So that effectively ruined their times for themselves. Looks like 269. He must maybe he got stuck at some point as well, because he is still hasn't got through that crossing. Maybe he might have wound up on a ridge as well. Some of those gliders might be parked there.
Yeah, I guess yeah, Zulu, Uniform Zulu, I guess, is looking for a thermal, make sure that he can make it through the gap there as well. So
okay, yeah. So he's diverted a lot to the north, searching. So really, a critical phase of this flight was topping out before heading into this valley, and yeah, timing can be everything. You can be cruising along so fast and then you miss one climb and everything's out the window. And we're it's getting a little bit later into the Condor Day here, so the thermals probably aren't going to be as plentiful now this time of day than they were at 1:30 or 2 o'clock Condor time when they started the race. Sounds great. Yeah. So we'll let the rest of the competitors finish in here. It looks like SOL is likely going to be successful in keeping top spots, and we'll take a look at the calendar for what the upcoming races are. So the next race that is happening is in Morocco. So that's going to be I think that'll be exciting terrain and territory. I'm not sure what they have in Morocco for gliding, but that one sounds like a lot of fun. And then South Africa, and then after that Germany, and there's more races. It looks like about every 2 weeks for the rest of the year. So hopefully more and more pilots start to fly these tasks, and it should turn into a very interesting series. Thank you to any spectators that are watching on the live stream and following along, and thanks to Anton for hosting this, and the team that is helping with the technical side and streaming, and thank you, Chris, for coming along to commentate as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. It was fun. So I'm excited to see what happens with this World Series.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, well, have a great rest of the day, and thanks everyone for watching the stream.
Sorry.